Hi, Tim. How are you? Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna get going here right off the bat here. Let's see. But you can hear me, right? Yeah, okay. All right. Well,
Yeah, sorry about that. I can hear you.
okay, no problem. I'm gonna just kind of start with an informal introduction to dreams the way I use them, and I've used them extensively for, I don't know, since the 90s. I've actually formally done Jungian analysis since I think it was like 2005 or 4 or 5, and then lately I've been doing active imagination to to do the dreams, and it's been extremely productive. I mean, I don't think I'll ever go back to Jungian analysis because I don't think I can replicate what I'm doing in my in my active imagination. It just happens too fast, and um, there's too much activity going on, to have an analyst get involved.
Well, it sounds to me like you have a pretty good system.
Yeah, I think I'm going to get a feedback here if I don't do something. Let's see here. Well, I'll just. Yeah, I need to. Just a second. I'll be right 1 second. Okay, let's see here. Let's see. Let's see. Oh well. Well, anyway, I'm gonna try to mute this thing here. Yeah. Okay. Well, this thing and stop. Can you hear me? There we go. I think I've got it turned on. Let's see. I'm sorry. Can't find my speaker. Okay.
Oh.
Well, anyway. I wish I could find this thing. Oh, shit. Just a second. I do, because I have some pictures I want to share, and I have to share them off this thing. Just a second. Oh, here it is. Found it. Okay. All right. If I'm not screwing up something, something's wrong here. Oh, wait, that's not.
Looks good so far.
Yeah. All right, well, I'm just gonna get rid of this. Wait. Oh yeah. I don't know. Oh. Anyway, let's see if I can do it without it. But anyway, the idea here is this is my own approach, okay? That I take an alchemical view of the dream, and has to do with this, where we wander between two worlds. One's dead and the other one's powerless to be born. Okay, now that has to do with the ego and the unconscious within us that is has not become conscious. I'm gonna get rid of this. I think I'll just have to do it the other way here. But anyway, that's number one, is the idea here of what we do with dreams in just, this is my own opinion, is that dreams are to let the to make the individual deity that resides within us conscious. That's the whole thing. And there's dreams are not for any other purpose other than to eventually develop a relationship with the deity within and make it conscious, you know. And this is what Jung said in the Red Book: you must make yourself into a vessel of the creation in which the opposites reconcile. And the whole idea there is that you're going to create this third thing within you through assimilating unconscious contents in consciousness, in ego consciousness. So in other words, we're lending ego consciousness to the unconscious contents. And what the Great Mother told me, that if you will be real to me, I will be real to you. In other words, you have to acknowledge that this is a living entity within you. And I had a kind of a stark message of that yesterday. I was doing an active imagination, and I really think that you have to do active imagination in conjunction with dreams to allow this process to occur. Okay, so what I was went into water, I sunk to the bottom, and then I started to walk along the bottom, and I came out into a kind of a bleak landscape, and I heard the voice say, it said, "Welcome to our world, torn by cruelty." Now, what that meant to me was neglected, ignored, and not allowed to become fulfilled. And this is something that, you know, Jeffrey Raff is really with, you know, something that's very important to him, that is the imaginal world. We have been lost in the illusion of our aloneness, convinced that we are alone. We alone are real, while we suppose that if the spirit has any reality to it at all, it awaits us in the world to come. As for the here and now, this world hovers on the brink of disaster. It's you know, one world dead, the other powerless to be born. if anything, if anything at all, an invisible and unknowable deity, because we have no intimate contact with the divine within us. You know, it's not a divine outside of us. And this divine entity is individual and unique to each one of us. And this is what the Sufis say: there is no universal truth other than unique revelation. The only universal truth is the unique revelation available to the individual. So that's the universal truth. And I've been kind of thinking about this. I mean, what really happens is that the unconscious wants to flower as a multifaceted jewel, and we're each facets upon the jewel, you know, and it's just the idea of the very amazing thing that each one of us are totally unique, totally individual, and each don't have a God outside of us. Each has an individual deity that is going to evolve with us if we lend it our awareness. And the way in this impoverished world of ignoring the imaginal, it just does not happen. And that's why she says, "Welcome to our world torn with cruelty." And that means that they're abandoned in the mire. No one pays any attention to them. The ego has ascendancy. Intellect has ascendancy. There's nothing about non-ego in ourselves, which speaks to us in many ways too. I mean, it speaks to us in dream. It speaks to us when you throw an I Ching hexagram. You know, it speaks to us in active imagination. So the whole idea here is, as far as I'm concerned, is that we can do dream interpretation, and I'm actually have done a lot of it, and I'm pretty good at it. Not that I think the fact that I'm a little radical about what I'm radical about is that this has to do, all of our dreams have to do with creating the Redeemer, or the philosopher's stone within us. You know, that's what they're all pointing towards, and they're pointing towards this shared center. So this other being is the twin of our souls, and we call it the self, but it is not a self that is universal to everyone, although it has access to that. But it is the self that we were born with, and it is going to, talk about the evolution of the God image, where there's the evolution of the God image in the astrological ages, but there's also the flowering of the God image in us, and we have a completely unique revelation. And I was just talking about this with my wife this morning. She had a dream that she goes to back to her college, and she says, all my dreams are about that. Well, this has to do with the circular process. The point of departure is usually a sacred place, or it's a womb-like entity, and it like a college or your childhood home or something like that. But the idea is that this is just in a nutshell, is that every dream can be one stone in the temple built on the rock within us. You know, the temple at the lowest place, the very lowest place. Hi, Sandy. I had a few technical glitches, but I'm going. But just kind of doing an informal review, and feel free to jump in, Tim or Sandy, because I'm not really, I'm just kind of doing a very informal review. I think, you know, what I'm hoping to do is to amplify some dreams, show how to amplify dreams, but also to work together, amplifying dreams, but also to we'll look at some of the real classic works. There's one by Mary Mattoon, who collected everything Jung ever wrote about dreams. And then there's one on active imagination. There's one by Robert Johnson called Inner Work. We'll look at some of Barbara Hanna's works on encounters with the soul, and I mean her things on active imagination. And also, I think ally work by Jeffrey Raff is as profound as you're going to get, and he spent 40 years doing this. But again, the approach that I have to dreams is that they are a something that if we have a dialogue with the dream, and that's what I'm thinking amplification is, that we and then we like the Naskapi Cree say that they are they were a tribe that was very small, so it really never had any religions. So it was they're in I thought they were in Labrador, but I could be wrong. And the major obligation of the Naskapi Cree was to follow the instructions given by their dreams and then give permanent form to their contents in art. One who was receptive to the hints of Mista Peo, the companion within. Now, this is really the alchemical partner. The companion within got better and more helpful dreams. This companion also became more real within the receptive person than in those who neglected him. Well, welcome to our world, you know, torn by cruelty. But the other thing is they would share their dreams with other people, and then they would write a song about them, and they would sing the song, you know, and what this is really giving bulk to the stone that we're going to place in the inner temple. Now, I don't know this approach. I don't think too many people do, but it's really what I've learned to do is that this is no joke. As far as I'm concerned, is these are messages that from a dream maker who is outside of time and space, is the same voice that speaks through I Ching hexagrams, is the same, is really the Tao, you know, and yet it's unique to us, you know. So and it will evolve with us, and it doesn't want us to worship it. It wants us to partner with it, and the idea of partnering with it is for the symbols of meaning to come up. You know, I mean, this is the thing of where that man was meant to light a candle in the darkness of mere being, you know, and even with the most wonderful life that we have on this planet Earth. As I was saying last Saturday, I think that you know, you had this rock that was at equilibrium, and through a ferment up came the peacock. Okay, well, that's fine, but this being within us, within man, and see, the only way this being could be known was for ego consciousness to spin off from its animal self. So it was separated and broken from the animal. Now it can have a dialogue with nature. And up until that point, there was no being that this ferment out of which life came could have a dialogue with. And it longs to be conscious. I mean, if you've ever seen that painting that Jung does where he's flowering or watering flowers and they come up out of the earth, you know, I mean, this is the whole idea of awakening this divine within. Did you have something to say, Tim, or not?
Yeah. A couple of sentences back, something struck me. Oh, about the ego. The ego needs to be distracted or needs to fly away or needs to be subsumed in this process.
It needs to separate from nature. It needs to be an Archimedean point. And this is the whole key to the development of meaning in the universe. You know, what we're called Homo, not what Jung and Ayala Yaffe said. We're not Homo sapiens. We're not thinking man. That's a man with only one function operating. We're Homo mythicus. And
yeah, it seems like the dominant culture works with half a brain, with the left brain.
Well, yeah, Homo sapiens is what you would name yourself if you think that the only value in consciousness is the intellect, you know, and that intuition and sensation and feeling are not valued, you know, and yet all four of them are important, you know, and this is why I really think this ties in with alchemy too, because of the fact that in alchemy, you know, you have the spirit and soul. This is the conscious part of our awareness, you know, the ones that has to do with thoughts and words and grammar. And yet its strength is only perfected, it said in the Emerald Tablets, when it returns to the body, when it returns to earth. So one thing you find in your dreams is that you need to be a rooted being. You need to be a being with the body. You can't. I mean, this is the whole idea of life. I mean, imagine your life right now without the feeling of pleasure in your limbs and in your heart, and you know, just you don't just think, you feel things in your head as you think, you know. I asked the anima this morning, try to make her active, you know, I ask her to kiss me. I felt it on my lips, you know. So I mean, the idea is that this is where it really gets real. I think is that we're not disembodied, detached heads, you know. So it is. We'll go through a lot of this as we go along, but I mean, I think that I think this is a very serious enterprise. I don't think it's it's not. I mean, it's serious, and only in the fact that it is the reason we were born. You know, this is these dreams and this relationship with Mistapeo. You know, this being this partner that we have, who is again the only universal truth in the universe, is the unique revelations of each individual with his own soul and with his own divine that he was born with. You know, I mean, these revelations are far more valuable in this existence that we inhabit than any scriptures, any written texts, you know. And like I say, I think every single one, I mean, you know, I can look at a lot of dreams, and you know, they kind of break down into ones that seem very you know, seem like they're big dreams, you know. You know, I'm in a dungeon, and there's a bunch of people in prison down there, and the old woman who's the tending of the prison tells me, if you will just acknowledge that these beings down here are real, they will be free.
Hmm.
You know, there's that type of dream. And then there are also dreams which are very banal, you know, but those can be exploded too. But, you know, there's, um, I mean, if you bring, you know, I think the way I start with a dream is like this: is I take the dream and I try to write it again in like a fairy tale voice, you know. Um, I want to cross the bridge to the house I was born in, but I first had to force my way across a bridge that was covered with a very thick forest. Okay, so there's a bridge going across the river, but it's a very thick forest, you know. So this has something to do with the only way to get to the bridge is the transcendent function that creates the symbol. So anytime you see a bridge, that means that you're creating a unity of opposites in time and space, or at least in your consciousness. And this is part of the idea of temple. But for me to do that, my bridge has to be filled with rooted things, you know.
So wait a minute, go back. Just try to expand that idea a little bit, writing the dream in a fairy tale way.
Okay, well, sometimes the dreams sound really, you know, ordinary. And let me give you an idea. I got one right here, and that I did. Okay, a woman had a very large bag of trash that kept growing and growing. Its bag didn't seem strong enough to hold it. We seem to live in a place where everything is muddy and the whole world is muddy. The trash seemed very interesting. I'm not sure what it was, but it seemed to have a kind of a numinous or glowing character. Uh, while this was happening, we seemed to be almost floating above the earth, uh, and we seem to be near bodies of water at all times. You know, now I did, let's see if I can find this. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so the anima lends me, you know, I'm going to grab my glass. I left them in the other room. Just a second. Oh, here they are. Okay. The anima lends me an ever-growing collection of the dreams and unconscious contents that I leave abandoned in my awareness. How's that for a jujitsu? You know. So these sacred contents I have abandoned, she preserves and tends and collects to the point where it's almost bursting. These are the prima materia, the substance which could have been a stone in the temple, were ignored. They're these unopened letters. The whole world I live in, because of this, is muddy and confused mass, you know, and the depths are left mixed. The water of life is left mixed in the depths, not separate enough to possess any kind of. It's just a mass. It is the primary material, and it's combined of earth and water, and it's just mud. And instead, this is what I'm doing instead of incorporating these unconscious contents, which the anima greatly values. I think they're trash. She tends them and collects them, and instead I float above, disengaged, and the water of life is everywhere, and I ignore it. So I mean, that's the idea. I mean, when you first read the dream, it's a little sounds very ordinary, but the way I would restate that, like a fairy tale, is I would do this. I mean, try to make it a little more less personal. It was actually my wife had a very large bag of trash that kept growing and growing. Okay, then I said, the anima tends an ever-growing collection of the dreams and unconscious contents which are being ignored, which I consider trash, or at least I'm treating like trash. And then we seem to live in a place where everything was muddy and the whole world was muddy. Well, it's muddy because it's you're not lending conscious awareness to this, so it's everything's just a morass in this kind of a primal soup. It hasn't been differentiated. The contents of the conscious unconscious need to be, if you lend them the power of consciousness, they become differentiated and can become symbols. But if you don't, they're just this primal soup, which could have been but didn't fulfill it. And then but the trash seems very interesting. Well, yes, because anytime you encounter unconscious contents, seriously, they are vivifying. They make you feel alive, and so that's why they seem numinous. If you Marie-Louise von Franz says dreams are the most real thing we have because they are not contrived. They're the only possession of nature that we possess that is totally not contrived. Has nothing to do with the conscious attitude, nothing to do with the overvaluing of the conscious attitude. And so it has it's very interesting, but I'm not sure why. And then I'm just floating above the earth. Well, floating above the earth means you're oblivious. You don't pay any attention to the standpoint that you need to take. You need to have your feet on the ground, and you need to be rooted in the earth, and you need to take these unconscious contents, and you need to make them concrete in the outer world. It's just I have a lot of dreams about this, that there are all of these treasures which I just let slip through my fingers. And one time I was not having very many dreams, and I did an act of imagination. And why am I not having very many dreams? And the Great Mother says, "Why should we give you any more than we've already given you? You don't do anything with them, Well, you're supposed to, do this idea of finding out." And I think you'll find this too. I mean, I find a lot of people have trouble with these dreams, but I don't know why. I mean, I do know why, but because I have trouble with them, you know. But I think the idea is that it takes training to realize that the unconscious or the conscious attitude is the problem. You know, it's what needs to. I mean, your ego. Most of your dreams are going to say this. They're going to say, "You're trapped. You're lost. You can't find your way out. There's no, you know, there's some crisis that's occurring, and there's no hope. You know, nothing can save you." And what that's really saying is this ego thing is leading to a dead end. It's not going anywhere. What your ego needs to do is it needs to take these unconscious contents, make them real in the outer world, give you know, draw pictures of them, and like the Naskapi would sing a song about them, and you lend them all four functions. So anyway, I mean, that's kind of the thing. But I think what we might want to do is just look at a few dreams. I wish I could show you some of my drawings. I could probably do it, but I can't find my stupid um, uh, thing. If you can just stand a little bit of feedback, I can show you a couple. Let's see here. But anyway, if you guys want to ever bring any of your dreams that you want to share, we can certainly look at them because that is something I'm fairly you know, I mean, I do it, and some people think I'm a little intense about it, and they don't like it. But just show you one I had recently here. Let's see.
You are intense. And
This is an interesting one here. Okay, now this is a little bit of a different thing, and that is visual impressions. You know, now if you um, ever are doing, let's see, yeah, okay, if you're ever just sitting reading or something, sometimes you have visual impressions, you know, and Jung said you should grab these things, write them down, you know, and in this one, I saw a dead elk. I saw Otzi, which is, you know, that being they found in the Swiss Alps. It was 5,000 years old, and then a hand holding a black and white bird, and the enema with the silver lunar face says, "I will prove this all to you." You know, so I mean that is not really a dream. It's a visual impression. You know, but what I think that involves, and see, now there's vision. I guess the things I do as far as there are dreams that are you know, there's visual impressions, and then there's active imagination. And let me look at this one here. Okay, well, this so there was unbound nature, elk. Then there was Otzi, the man from the Swiss Alps, the collective inheritance. There was a bird, a black and white bird held by man, the bird uniting the opposites. That's the spirit can ascend to higher consciousness. So this is a black and white bird, and it's the spirit that transcends opposites. So there was unbound nature, the elk, the collective inheritance, which was Otzi, and then there was the now isn't that funny? There was these three images that didn't seem like they were related, but you put them together. Then there is the spirit, which is unites the opposites. So the elk is lying on its side dead. The woman with the silver lunar face says, "I will prove it to you." The antlered instincts are dead. The ancient wisdom is mummified. In a powerful hand lies the winged opposites, and the anima speaks that what you see here is true. So that those are kind of interesting things that I have. And what I'm doing lately, and I think I'll just go through some of these dreams next time if I can fix this. Is first I take the dream and I break it down into various parts. I take each part of the dream. Like Tim, if any of your dreams, you would just write down each aspect, almost number them. Okay, you just almost number them, and then you start to say, what does this mean? Now, I have some knack for doing that myself. However, you can do an active imagination and ask what that is. What is? Pardon me?
Let me jump in here. I've always had trouble like separating the dream into objects and illuminating each one of those objects. I mean, I can do that, and it's really ponderous. It takes a lot of effort. But what I tend to do is take a dream and look at it as a whole and try to feel what the gist of it is as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Well, usually I'm saying that the ponderous part of it's important. I mean, if you go through each image, then when you do try to understand the dream as a whole, it starts to, it really is almost don't need to do it. I mean,
Oh, so you're telling me that this process is kind of like exercise? You can't just do a 5-minute workout and get a.
No, well, that's what Jung was, Marie Louise von Franz, when she went to analysis with Jung with her dreams, she's just sweating all the way there. She's just nervous as hell, and then she gets into the thing with this dream, and Jung and her just go at it until they're totally exhausted. About 30 or 40 minutes to spend in dreams on one dream. And then Jung just, wipes his brow and says, boy, aren't you glad you got a Jung to go through that dream? I mean, but it's important that they do it. I mean, the idea here is Jung said that people think that dreams speak an obscure language. And he said they don't speak an obscure language. They just speak a language that we don't speak anymore.
Right.
Because we're too much in the ego attitude. See, if I think as you do more and more of them and find out where is this leading, to what goal am I pointed towards? And it took me a long time, but I find right now that really alchemy was just a godsend to me because.
Well, I've got a friend that calls me every so often with a dream, and I notice that when he gives me his dream, it seems much easier for me to be able to reflect the symbols that I'm hearing, and I'm surprised at how often that happens. That when he tells me these kind of innocuous dreams, which is the kind of dreams I often have, the symbolism seems really clear to me. But I look at my own innocuous dreams and they just seem so opaque.
Yeah. Hi, Charles. Nice to see you. Don't be such a stranger. But anyway, yeah, this is something I find. I get this dream that I absolutely have no idea what it's about. I mean, it doesn't seem very interesting, and yet if you do, if you spend time with each aspect of it, I mean, to me, it's like decoding a hieroglyph. You know, you have to. Uh, I think you just have to find out what each aspect is saying. On that one rock reading I sent you, this is an interesting way of looking at dreams. I back in the early '90s, I spent some time um, with Michael Harner, who is this expert on shamanic. Was a professor of anthropology, but he basically became a shaman, and one of the things he did, which I thought was fascinating, and the only reason I'm bringing it up is because it sort of illustrates the process of going through a dream bit by bit, and then when you get to the end, you know what it means, but you don't know before then, so it's sort of like putting a piece of puzzle together, and you don't know what the puzzle is going to look like when you're done. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because it kind of illustrates why it is necessary to take each thing in the dream and to amplify it, and then you can look at the whole dream. I don't think you can do that before, but what Michael Harner would do is he'd get a grapefruit-sized rock, and then he would ask it about a dream, like you would the I Ching, but what he would do is he'd look at each of four sides of the rock, and he would find two things in the rock in that side, and he would go through all four faces, and then when he was done, he knew what the dream meant. So my dream was, why do I repeatedly see long forgotten emaciated dogs in my dreams? In other words, I'd open up the basement door and out would walk a dog that I hadn't seen for 20 years. He'd been locked in the basement all this time, and he comes up. So this is the forgotten instincts, but it's also is suggestive of the neglected deity within us, But anyway, so I look at this rock, and on the first side, I see a rooted tree and a women's reproductive aspects. And so then you ask the rooted tree is gravity, and the reproductive aspect of the woman is embodiment. And the pair together say, your feet should be on the earth. You have a body, you need gravity, the rooted tree, you need to have that generative feminine aspect within you. And then the second side was the one-eyed god, Wotan. And then there was the surface of the moon, which was desiccation, dryness. And so to me, this meant the old gods are dead. So then side one and side two together, your feet should be on the earth and the old gods are dead. And then if you recognize that, then you can get the beckoning call. Okay. And then
why would you characterize the old gods?
The old gods, Wotan, the one-eyed god, and the moon surface of the moon.
So is that, I think of old gods as like the Babylonian Marduk and
well, the old aspects of Don't put new wine in old old animal skins or old goat skins. I mean, I think the idea is the becoming thing. You know, I mean, this is this circular process. You always come back to the college that you went to, or you always come back to your childhood home, and that's always this. You always come right back to the starting point, and now with a little different perspective than you did the last time you were here. But you need to do a reiteration of it, you know. And the idea is there are no there are no the gates of paradise never open. You know, there's no final revelation. It's a continual circular process. And you know, like there's no one dream that's going to save you. You know, the one dream that we have, that we take this dream, it doesn't seem that important, yet we amplify it, we give it some honor, you know, we draw it and we color it, and then like the Nascapi would do, they would make up a song about it. You know, you try to put all four functions in it, and especially just not the thinking function or the ego function. And that's one stone in the temple on the rock where you can't go any lower. So you're starting each time. What you're really doing, and remember that they're stressing in alchemy and in Jung, that there's no such thing as a universal truth. There's only the unique revelation of each of us. And the unique revelations of each of us, each dream is one unique revelation. And it's just like these sides on the rock. They don't mean a lot in themselves, but they establish a pattern. And you start to get warp and woof. You know, you're going to get a fabric or a texture going on in what is becoming your personal myth and the personal meaning of each one of us. And again, it's nothing to do. The ego is the source of awareness and consciousness, which it lends to wisdom, which is this unique germ, divine germ that we were born with, or this deity that we were born with, which the only way it can come alive is if we turn away from the outer world and realize that there is this living entity within us, and we lend it our awareness and become its partner in a dialogue. And then that's when wholeness starts. Until you do that, you're not really working towards wholeness, because what wholeness means is to become aware that you are a partner with the divine. If you don't realize that and don't work on it, and you know, my divine in me is very jealous and impatient, and she doesn't put up with bullshit. You know, she wants you to do the work, and if you don't do the work or you miss a day or something, she will turn a cold shoulder to you. You go there and it's just totally cold.
Do you mean jealous of the attention you give to the rest of your life?
Jealous of your devotion to the work, you know. So I mean, this is really what whole, and you know, and it's not unpleasant either. You know, I call it the blessed hour. You know, I don't think I ever feel as alive as I do when I am speaking with this wisdom in active imagination about dream images. I mean, it is just an absolutely magical. And I think that's, if I can impart anything in this, is that it is, this is pure magic, and what Jung said, that what the ancients call magic, we call psyche, you know, I mean, this is, it's just the images, if you develop a feel for them, absolutely beautiful. And they really are vivifying. I mean, they actually do give you, and if you do it, on a daily basis long enough, you get this buzz from it too. I mean, and you can't wait for the next day, and I don't spend a lot of time doing it either. I mean, what I do every morning for about 30 minutes, I just take dreams and break them down into parts, and then just put, some type of amplification, like I did with the dream about the trash bags. I mean, that was pretty much me. And then I go to, then I go down into the basement, into the underworld, and we have a little office down there. And then I do about 15 minutes of just meditation, which is active imagination based. I mean, in other words, what I do is I try, and this is something you got to learn. And I'm not saying I'm the greatest at it yet, but what you do is, what I do is I go down there, and I went through a lot of iterations, but what I'm doing now is I go down and I'm standing at the precipice of a hill, and I can only look off to the left, and I try to see it. What's the weather like today? It's always usually blue, and the clouds are very dark, slate, blue gray. And then I go down into the valley, and there I see the river, and usually the woodpecker mother is there. And then I go down, and really all I'm doing is I just go see the great mother. And every once in a while, she will give me a little vision, but I just go see her.
Mhm.
I don't have to talk with her, but I do tell her what I'm thinking, and she doesn't respond too much, except that yesterday she's saying that, welcome to our world torn by cruelty. I mean, she says those kind of things every once in a while, but then I make sure, even if I got a little buzzer that goes off after 15 minutes, but even if it goes past, I make sure I see the anima, and I will spend time with the anima and tell her how much joy she gives to me. Okay, then after that, I just get my pad out, and I've got like books and books and books and books of, just where I'll just, say, good morning, great mother, good morning, anima, and then I just start going through the dream, and I say, what does it mean that the anima is has a garbage bag that's just bursting, and then you uncritically, like you're Tim Holmes, who's put the marine boots outside your door, you write the answer. And Barbara Hanna says, don't worry that you think you did it, not you didn't. And you'll find that out. I mean, it's, like this, like Jung did when he saw the yogi that was dreaming the dream of his life. It's the self dreaming us. We're not dreaming the self. It's not, it's the other way around. And so I think of it that way. Think that you are the dream of the unique deity within you. Try that for a while. You know, I mean, I was trying to do that today. You know, I was trying to think of that. What's that like? You know, and it's really, it's very, it's a way of looking at your ego with a little detachment,
Yeah.
I am the dream of the self.
Okay, I've got one here I want to share with you.
Yeah. Okay.
Hello, Miles.
Hey, Miles, how you doing? You're in the garage, looks like.
Hi, yeah, I'm in the basement,
Yeah.
and I was just listening to you. I was on YouTube, and it's as if I'm in a dream because I'm listening to you, and I'm looking at everything that I'm surrounded by, and I'm putting you're making these connections for me. Um, so I don't know. It just sort of feels a little surreal because when you think about it, here I am sitting here in Calgary, Canada, listening to Craig in Iowa. Iowa, is that correct?
Yeah.
And you're imparting visions or connections for me. And as I look at my desk and what I have on it, it's like, okay, that now I see how this fits with that, and my ego, I'm to use my ego to connect make the symbols conscious through the four functions.
Yeah. Well, I see it's still light out there too.
Yeah, it's
Long dark here.
still snow out there too. But I got a little poem, if you want me to share it with you.
Miles, can you move a little closer to your mic? You're pretty soft.
Okay. How's that? Is that better?
That's better. Yeah.
So I have this card from my daughter,
Mhm.
and inside it was a Father's Day card, and inside I put the giver of life, Carl Jung's definition of God.
Mhm.
And that's the definition: that God is the name by which I designate all things which cross my willful path, violently and relentlessly, but also nice things like you guys sharing your conversation and talking about dreams. All things that upset my subjective views, plans, and intentions and change the course of my life for better or for worse. And
Mhm.
this bird reminds me of the words of Chief Crowfoot.
Is that her own art?
That is her own art.
Yeah.
And so, it's as though like she's brought into my life to educate me, right?
Mhm.
Is what it comes down to. And this is what Chief Crowfoot wrote over 100 years ago. Um, Actually, in the 1870s. And this is the words of Chief Crowfoot. What is life? It is the flash of a firefly in the night. It is the breath of the buffalo in the wintertime. It is the little shadow which runs across the grass and loses itself in the sunset. And I'm thinking, this shadow that runs across the grass and loses itself in the sunset, it's like the Holy Spirit, or it's this bird, or it's both, right?
Well, see, if I was doing that as a dream, I would say that the river flowing between is a different kind of unconscious. It's a moving unconscious. It's it's more related to it isn't a still pond. It's it's moving water. So it has a masculine aspect and a feminine aspect. And this is why, they said that streams were related to Hermes, Aphrodite, you know, I mean, he was the combination of Hermes and Aphrodite. And then above it is the winged dove. Now that is it would be it often is usually is supposed to be Sophia, you know. It's
Right.
it's the divine thoughts of God, you know. So the fact that is it's the divine thoughts of a being with more gravity. So, you know, the thoughts have less gravity, you know, so that's why the Sophia, who's not the great mother, she is the more, the very, very positive aspect of the archetypal feminine. And she's supposed to be the divine thoughts of God. And so she's flying above the river of the unconscious. She is the divine thoughts of the river, and there is the banks on either side. One is the ego, and one is the depths.
Now let me share this. You have just said what you've said, and see how it connects to the words of this song by a Cree man named Tom Jackson, a very well-known Canadian singer-songwriter. He's actually Métis, but part of his heritage is Cree. And Tom Jackson, I heard him speak, I'm thinking 20 years ago now, or no, actually more like 25 years ago. And he, in his, it was a luncheon presentation. And he said one thing that just struck me. He said, it's all about love. And at that time, in my ego-centric attitude, it was like, wow, it's all about love, you know, because I was just enjoying life, you know, and very, very much about material. Now, here's what he wrote in this song called Blue Water. And again, thinking about what you just said, describing the picture as you did. In her eyes, we will always be equals. One blue drop in her forest rain. Hear her voice is the cry of the eagles, singing love is going to lead the way. We all need blue water. We all need to lead the way. We all need blue water. We will sail the seven seas and find a new direction. Thirsty tears we will wash away. There are thorns in the crown of perfection, but love is going to lead the way. We all need blue water. We all need to lead the way. There will always be rainbows. There will always be a better day. I believe there is a kingdom in tomorrow, and a child of love will lead the way. The world's future is in our hands. It is our home and native land. We all need to understand. We all need blue water. We all need to lead the way. We all need blue water. We all need to lead the way.
It's very beautiful. You know, Charles or Sandy, do you have what are your thoughts about, do you do any dream work, or Charles, or?
Actually, I have so many dreams written down that I almost can't catch up. I actually been dream journaling for basically since last spring, and sometimes it's been on and off, but it was in, I believe, October, the month of October, for about a month straight. Every night I would wake up in sheer terror and panic at the profoundness of my dreams. And had to write them down obsessively, and that was a very strange time. Yeah.
Do you have any memorable ones that you could share?
Sure. Yeah, I actually have one in mind. That's quite interesting. I don't write them down very detailed, but I'll kind of read it and try to elaborate it.
Whatever you got. I mean,
Okay.
that's one thing about dreams. Even a small fragment can be very important.
Yeah, even the small pieces that I remember, I try to write down, even if I don't get the whole dream. Okay, so it was in a large house, kind of medieval, kind of medieval style, like aristocratic. I was naked, and I was avoiding people. I was trying not to be found. I was at one point walking along the tops of the doorways up off the ground in order to not be seen. And at one point, I looked down a hallway, and there's a girl there that looks at me, and I'm like, not sure if she sees me or not. I'm like, she kind of has to at this point. I go past the hallway, look back again. She's still standing there looking at me. Like, okay, she seems to see me but not care. Then I proceed forward into what seems to be a library. And there's this huge red book on a table. And I say to myself, it's the red book. It's the red book. And I leap from on top of one of the doorways onto the table, flip open the book. And it's like basically like a chemical manuscript. Has all these crazy images and texts, but all the text is it's all jumbled. It's like a weird code. And I, in order to read it, become like, oh, I almost want to say that I like lend my ego consciousness to the dream. I become extremely aware and conscious in the dream, and use it to focus on the text as hard as I can. And I start being able to decode some of the text, but not make complete sentences. And the only complete sentence or idea that I was able to decode was, it said, "Be like Christ, go into the middle of the deep water and refract it."
What was the first part? Go into the middle of the deep water. What was before that?
It said, be like Christ, go into the middle of the deep water and refract it.
Where what now?
Like refraction, light refraction, but rarefaction.
Oh, rarefaction.
I believe, yeah, rarefaction I believe is like a sound dynamic as opposed to like light or something.
Now, can you? Was it just the word rarefaction?
Yeah, and rarefract it. Rarefract the deep water.
Okay, go into the deep water and refract it.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And then the pages start to turn. It's like a black mixed with rainbow ink, and the images start to turn kind of like deathly and skeletal, and I'm unable to interpret the text anymore. And as that starts happening, I kind of reach the end of the book, and I start to hear voices coming into the distance and approaching me. And eventually someone does approach me and finds me, and they catch me. But when they catch me, they say, "Aha, it's Aladdin." And they call me Aladdin. And he turns me, or he at least attempts to turn me into a book and put me on the bookshelf, which I'm aware that I could resist. I could put up a fight and prevent it, but I say, what the heck? All right. And he turns me into a book and puts me on a bookshelf.
Well, that's a wonderful dream. Now, this is one, Tim, that where it's so important to go through each image. And even though it is a very long dream, I mean, it's going to take a while to do it, but just going through it really quickly, excuse me. I mean, there's a large house. Okay. So you're in sort of like a hermetic vessel, but it's this large containing motherly place. It's a place. The hermetic vessel is, shaped like a womb. You're naked and avoiding people. So in this case, that means that you are in your you have no persona. You're actually in your most natural. At least you're exposed. You can't use the persona to defend yourself anymore. I mean, because you are in your somewhat primal form, you know. Um, then now you're walking along the tops of the doorway. Okay, now it's a very interesting image of floating. Okay, now floating it means you don't have your feet on the ground. But where do you have your feet? On the tops of doorways. Okay. Now that one will take a little bit of time, but it has a certain quality to it that is very intriguing. Okay, so the doorway is the door in a doorway is the what opens and shuts, and it through a threshold. So it's going through an opening from one space to another, and this is the thing that either opens the space or closes the space, and this is what you're using as a perch to get around the house with, which is again, you don't have your feet on the ground. So this implies that that in my own case, I would say that would mean that I'm just I don't I have not come down to the place of healing yet. I'm living in some kind of a blissful existence, but until I come down and my feet are on the ground, I can't. Uh, I'm an air being. I'm not a being that's that is can possibly become whole. Okay, I have to have feet on the ground to do that. Okay, so then you look down the hallway. Now shut me up if you think if you. I'm going at this as if it's my own dream, so you don't. It doesn't have to apply to you. But then I'm looking down a hallway. There's the anima there, and she's just gazing at me, and yet this is my soul, but she acts as if you don't think she sees you, but she doesn't seem to care. Now, why wouldn't she care? Because perhaps there's she's not going to be interested unless someone um, is going to relate with her. She is Eros. She's the one who brings together. She doesn't see us in a state that can be brought together. So, I would always see the anima. I'd be in a room where it's dark outside, and their windows open to the night, and suddenly there's a flash of lightning. The anima's standing outside the window looking at me. That's the only time I see her. So, I mean, there's a glass between us, so there's no possibility of relatedness. I am trapped in my ego attitude. I'm trapped in the conscious attitude. I have no relationship with the feminine as far as the fact, and now this is the archetypal feminine. I have no relationship with this figure of transformation, which she is, and she's rooted in the earth. And then you go into the library. Now, this is the place of learning, and this is where there's be a possibility of learning something, that is going to cure whatever curse or enchantment there is right now that makes you not able to walk on the floor, and you can't expose yourself to the outer world because you're so there the aspect of that you have no persona, you're totally exposed, and that is something that it's not just, it doesn't have to do with just being naked, that you feel exposed, that there's no secrets, no one can uh, uh, I mean, it's just a feeling of vulnerability. I mean, like if you were naked, you'd be feeling vulnerable. Okay. So, but anyway, you get into the place of learning, and you see the book of wholeness on the table. I mean, the secret book of transformation and of wholeness is on, and you are are desperate for it. You go towards it, and
It seems to me that it's the color of passion.
yes, it is the red. That's very interesting that Jung selected red. I think it was just accident. He just went and bought something to bind his paintings and things in, and it happened to be red. But it is the color of passion. It's the color of it's one of the alchemical colors too: red, white, black, and yellow. So it's one of the alchemical colors. And rubedo tends to mean earth, and it is more, well, black is the prima materia, white is the sublimation, yellow or gold is the goal, and red, Jung said that we can't, that Christ in heaven can't help us. He needs to come back to the red. The albedo is not what we need. We need the rubedo. So that is the red too, but it also represents eros and coming together. So this is the book of both eros, and it's also the book of the secret book of wisdom. And you open it up, and it's not really readable. It's written in some kind of a esoteric script, and so then you try to, at least, and I've had this too, where there's a book and I want to just pull one thing out to when I wake up, anything in that book that I could read, because I knew it was very profound when I saw it, and I'm trying to pull something out. And then so you have this very interesting statement, which we're going to have to go into a little deeper, but be like Christ. Okay. What is the Christ is the Redeemer. He's the one that unites opposites in time and space. That's what the Redeemer is. So he's the third thing. He's the thing. He's somewhat like the Philosopher's Stone, but the problem with Christ is he's all white. He's not, doesn't have any darkness in him. But let's just say that instead of he's the he is, let's just say, be like Hermes. Be like this rooted being who unites the opposites, who's both the devil, the serpent, the deity, and the and the eternal feminine all in one. So Hermes is quite a guy. So anyway, be like some being, some redeeming being that unites the opposites. And then I really want to go into this, is go into the deeper water, go into the depths. I always find when I'm, I was just commenting to in my active imagination how much I enjoyed being immersed and sinking in the depths of water. There was just this very pleasurable feeling from doing that, you know. And so go into the deeper water and rarefact it. Now, this is always really interesting, is to do lookups on what some of these words are. You know, I keep finding my dreams will say things that I had knew nothing about, you know, and so rare effect, right?
Yeah, our
It's like
it's similar to the word like refraction, but yeah, like rarefaction.
okay,
I tried looking it up and it kept thinking that I was just spelling refraction wrong, but I'm pretty sure rarefaction is
yeah,
also a
it's
word.
rarefaction. It's a diminution in the density of something, especially air or gas. The lessening of density of a tissue. So it's the lessening of density of a tissue. You know, so I mean, it would be like a bone that's losing calcium. You know, a rarefaction. So let's go back to what that said. The dream. Go into the deeper water and go into the
Well, I mean,
deeper
technically,
water.
it's yeah. It says go
Rare.
into the middle of the
Oh,
middle
in the
of the deep
middle of the
water.
deeper water. That's even better. So you go into the middle of the deeper water. Now this is the place of that is halfway between. It's the thin place that the Celts said where heaven and earth are only 3 feet apart. You know, that's the middle place. You know, and so it's this place of meaning. So go into the middle of the deeper water and sublimate it is what it's really saying. You know, lessen its density, turn it into a spirit. So um, then the pages turns, the black is mixed with rainbow, and then it suddenly you see signs of death in it, or you know, some kind of skeletal things, and then a voice says that aha, it's Aladdin. So who's Aladdin? I mean, he's sort of a Aladdin and the lamp. You know, he is the sort of a figure who's connected with the magical world or the imaginal world, I would say.
It
So
reminds me,
here's this being. Go ahead.
reminds me of Lucifer, the bringer of light.
Yeah,
Is there a connection there?
between Aladdin and Lucifer.
Yeah, the bringer of light.
Yeah, well, it has something to do with the lamp, you know, and actually, you know, Lucifer is not actually a negative figure. I mean, he's a he's actually Hermes in disguise. You know, if you had not had Christianity, Lucifer would be a positive figure. You know, he would be somewhat similar to Prometheus, you know, or some figure like that. The problem with Lucifer in Christianity is he brings the false light. You know, Christ is the light that shines in the darkness, but Lucifer is a false light. So I mean, he's the false spirit. You know, but Aladdin, as far as just the figure, you know, he's a he had some he was a prince who was connected with the imaginal world. One of the things that we're going to try to do is become inhabitants of the imaginal world, and that's what this everything we're doing here is going to be about. Is about the imaginal world is the real world. This is the world where meaning is created. You know, everything outside on the other in the outer world is just samsara, it's the whirlwind, but yet in the imaginal world, especially this is the gift of the European West and the Levant, okay, is their myths are myths of images, of these wonderful images which are so evocative. You know, we don't want to become a dewdrop in the cosmic sea. We want to become well, especially in the alchemical sense, is Jung or Marie Louise von Franz used to say about, of course, now this Eastern philosophy for the East is their philosophy, but she said for us in the West, that she said it only takes you about 50 feet. I mean, it gets you ready to do active imagination, really. And she says Jung will take you the next 500 miles. So the idea there is the imaginal world. Aha, it's Aladdin. He exists in the imaginal world. Now, I don't know why they would say that about you. And then they try to turn you in a book and put you on the shelf, and you are surrendering to it. So that to me is saying something like that you're being turned into a book. So that would mean something like that you're being put on a shelf, for one thing. So they're taking away your reality. They're taking, you're this being of the imaginal world. Let's take away his reality and put him on the shelf. Something like that. Now, see, this was a very cursory, just amplification, as if I was doing it like myself. That's not
Craig,
even half. Yes.
could I ask a question?
Yes.
You said something that really struck me, and that was you said Jesus Christ is the third or the third person, and he's the uniter of the opposites. Could you elaborate? What is your source for Christ is the third? Is it because
it's an alchemical idea.
okay,
It's not a anything to do with the church.
yeah,
He's
because
the
I've been
Lord
thinking about him that way myself.
He's the
Strangely,
Lord of the upper worlds, and the Lord of the lower worlds is Hermes. But they are both what are known as the divine child, or the they're the being that's created through. I had this one dream just recently, and it is that I took a half sphere and I impregnated the anima with it, and as soon as I did, everything that was obscure became clear. So this was the fact that the uh, obscurity came from the fact that there were opposites. And the third thing, the divine child, is also the philosopher's stone, and what it really is the temple we build in this world, where the divine being in the eternal world, who is within us and ourselves, can meet, and in this being, the opposites can be united in time and space. They can't be united in the ego world, or there'd be no time. They can't be united in the eternal, because they already are united. They can't be separated in the eternal world. But yet you can have the opposites exist but be united in the third thing, and that's the redeeming thing. And it's the philosopher's stone. It's also called the son of the great world. That's Salvator Macrocosmi. Christ is the Christ is the Salvator Microcosmi. He is the son of he is the redeemer of man, and the macrocosm is the redeemer of the great world. But anyway, they're similar, but they say that Christ is the Lord of the upper worlds, and Hermes is the Lord of the lower worlds. But anyway, be like Christ. That was what it said. So anyway, now let me ask you. I mean, this is totally not the way you do it in Jungian psychology. You you have to draw this out of yourself, Charles. But I was just kind of trying to, like I said, I try to put these dreams in some kind of a fairy tale type aspect, and then start to draw a little of this meaning out of this. See, now the little bit of I did there is not finished by any means. I mean, I would draw a picture of it, I would color it, and then I would do an active imagination on it, because the active imagination is going to be much more revelatory than just this fly by night, seat of the pants amplifications I just did. Plus, Charles, we need to know from you if this resonates with you or doesn't resonate with you. If it doesn't resonate with you, then it's probably not valid.
The amplification.
Yeah.
I, to a degree, the idea of me like not having my persona or something correlated with me being like naked and not wanting to be seen, that was definitely kind of an aha thing for me. And it definitely resonated with me to a degree, but it wasn't completely revelatory.
Yeah, I know. I mean, the revelation would come if you did the active imaginations with it. But anyway,
Right.
I think go ahead.
Oh no, I was saying, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we might want to take a dream next time and just go through it. I mean, it's hard work. It really is.
Yeah.
But I mean, you go through it image by image. But I mean, if we really want to do a kind of a dream workshop, I mean, that's what we should probably do. If everybody wants to bring a dream that they feel they could share, and get me to shut up long enough to hear what you have to say. I'm just kind of showing you and you have to know that if you're a woman, male figures tend to be the animus. If you're a man, female figures tend to be the anima, or they both act as the bridge. The bridge for the anima is a little more singular than the animus. But anyway, next time we'll do it at Friday at 7 again, and I'll just we'll just trying to take a dream, and I'll try to do some legwork on one of my dreams, but I'd much prefer your other dreams to come and I kind of compressed this a little bit, Charles, because we didn't have much time at the end. So I was kind of blathering pretty fast.
That's understandable.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I said, I have an abundant amount of dreams. I would be totally willing to bring another dream.
Yes,
next time.
Try to bring one a little shorter.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't help how long a dream is, but I mean, it's just one that we can work through and really try to make magical. I mean, try to really bring the magic out of it. And it's a little bit hard for our egos to do this. To me, the only way I could do it is to go, into meditation and then ask the questions. And that's where I really get the richest answers. Well, do you have any closing thoughts, Tim? I mean, we'd like to get some of your dreams too, if you have some that you want to share that are, try to get one that's a little bit shorter so we can, go
Sure.
through it. If you have any, even from the way in the past,
Sure, I can bring something. Charles, thanks for that. That's a beautiful one.
It is a
Thank
beautiful
you.
dream. I loved
I
it.
mean, I guess I didn't come up with it, but thanks anyway.
Very rich, very rich. And so anyway, does anybody have any closing thoughts? I think next time we'll just get a dream, a shorter dream, and let's really try to flesh it out, you know. And I'll bring a little bit more of a little bit of material on the theoretical aspect. But I mean, if we're going to do a dream workshop, we should really work on dreams. And even though, like Tim said, it's tedious, it really is. But there is a reward if you do the work, you know. So so you kind of see too how tedious it is.
Yeah, I mean, I one of the ways that I tend to understand my dreams over time is I'll have a situation occur in life in which makes me think of the dream, and I can uh, essentially use the dream as an analogy for the kind of life lesson, and the two just kind of meet each other in a way to where I understand the dream more. And that could be a dream that I had many months ago, and it just very slowly over time starts to make more sense. That's kind of one of the ways I
And you know,
understand it
you
more.
also kind of have to have, I mean, I don't know, I mean, I don't like to push it, but you know, to me this is each one is speaks to the shared center that we need to develop with the divine, you know. So I mean, it's one stone in that shared center. And if you know, if you think that there's a little bit of wrinkles on those, that what I'm just said there too, feel free to speak up. You know, like there are some dreams that are very um, subjective, you know, that might have something to do with the outer world, you know, as a complementary. But remember who's speaking here. You know, it's the dream maker is real, the voice the of the collective unconscious speaking to you, wanting you to recognize her and to have a relationship with her, you know, and lend her your consciousness in a partnership. She doesn't want to be worshipped. Well, anyway, next time we'll just try to do a couple dreams. It's going to be a little bit tedious, but I don't know how else to do it. So so anyway, well, thanks, guys.
Sorry I haven't been around recently, guys. I've been busy coagulating. So
That's okay. You coagulate. Okay. We'll see you guys
Yeah,
later
thank
See you
now.
guys.
all right, see
Okay.
you guys next
Yeah.
time.